Hi, this is Mark Arnold with yet another episode of Fun Ideas Podcast, and today we have a returning guest, whom I think it's first time on the video format. Is Anthony Kotorac. How are you doing today, sir?
Very good, very good. I think we were on video last time. I
I don't
maybe
remember. I thought we were just on audio only because there was a time where we just did audio. So, but no matter. You're back, and
yes.
I've helped you probably many times since the last time we spoke on uh, various Looney Tunes episodes, which I will have you explain what we do.
Yeah. So first of all, we have a lot of fun, and that's the main thing. You can go and you can create a channel and all that stuff. But if it's not fun, what's the point of doing it? So so for those who don't know what I do, I've taken on the challenge to review all 1,000 Looney Tunes, all in order, and I bring various guests along with me because let's face it, if I'm reviewing all the Pepe Le Pews in a row, I'll be like, here's another Pepe again. So getting various guests along
Le
to give
Pew.
their point of view can make things fresh. I mean, what else am I going to say about Roadrunners, for example? Like
There they
they're all
go.
just so I'm trying to mix things up a bit. So
Mhm.
yeah. So both yourself, either yourself solo or with Camden Spees and other of your regular guests, yeah, join in on the fun, and I have the fun and pleasure of editing everyone.
Mhm.
That's fun.
Who have you had on the show besides us?
So let's see, Manny Cruz, the Toonie tenor.
He's
So
been on
he's
here.
he's a
Yep.
yep musical expert, and of course all around Looney Tunes and Simpsons nut as well. I mean, we're at a point where we communicate through Simpsons memes, so that's that's how we do it. My good friend Blue Genocide, he is an up and coming YouTuber. His focus is mainly on Sonic games, but he also does some cartoon related stuff, pop culture stuff. He's a 1930s horror buff as well, and he helps edit some of the stuff I do as well. And yes, I do pay him. I don't ask people to do things for free, unlike some
I don't
YouTubers.
get paid. This is
Oh no,
payment
not
enough.
you.
This is
Yeah,
payment enough that you do my show too. So anyway, fair, fair.
you're the asterisk. You're the asterisk in this
Yes.
case. I've had This Means podcast. Jonathan Graves. He's been a guest a few times. Um, uh, Up and coming animator Eli Copperman. He's been on for a while. Luke Perkins. Again, like some of them are young kids. I mean, I'm 38, so I guess I can call them kids because they're 18, 19. But so I guess I have the right now to do that.
Mhm.
But they're all like hungry. They're all like, hey, I enjoy this hobby. I want to study it. I want to do this sort of stuff. So I think it's great that to have on one end of the spectrum, of course, yourself, and then on the other, someone maybe even older. But anyway, the, um, who else have I had? I mean, I've spoken with Rob McKimson Jr. Thanks to Camden. That was wonderful. He's such a lovely guy, and also Linda Jones Cloud,
Yeah.
Chuck Jones's daughter, and yeah, she was on a few videos, and she even gave me some really good feedback on my videos that have taken to heart. She like people have said to me, "Oh, she can be kind of prickly and whatever," but no, I just say she loves her dad. She's very protective of her dad, and that's yeah, why not? But she did point out to me though, with all your guests, where are the women? Where are the women? And it's true. I mean, I've had one woman in the past. Unfortunately, she's I think moved on to other things. I think she's just going through some stuff. She needs space. Fair enough. She's always welcome back, of course. But
Mhm.
when I started doing the reviews when I changed from the commentary format, yeah, I gotta get a woman on the show. I mean, hey guys, put in the comments below. Let me know who I should get on the show. Not just my show, but also even your show too.
Mhm.
Who else have I had? So yeah, Austin Kelly I've
Well,
had. So yeah,
only one
plenty
that
of
pops in
people.
my head that Camden knows too is Amber Jones. But then you'd
Yeah.
have, so and she'd probably know her stuff, at least be able to talk about the voices and stuff like that since she's, in that field herself. So yeah.
Oh, exactly
Um,
right. I'll figure it out eventually. Once I get up to the cool cat, once I get up to the cool cats, I'll finally get a woman on. That's
Well, you have to kind of admit, over the years, animation fandom was really a male-dominated field, and it's like
mm,
I don't remember a lot of female commentators early on when I first got interested in cartoons in the 70s and 80s.
mm.
There was a couple out there, but for the most part, yeah, it was mainly males. And of course it was male dominated even at the Looney Tunes and Termite Terrace. It's like uh with a few voice artists and of course probably ink and paint. It was a very male dominated field, so I guess that's kind of what we're
Exactly.
dealing with.
Exactly. But hey, look, it is changing, which is for the best. Another thing that's changing too is, we want, to have more people of color as well. I mean, of course, Manny is a person of color, but also my good friend, um, I forgot his name already. No, Huey Nelson. Huey Nelson. Because
Yeah,
I was thinking Nelson Hughes, but it's like, wait a minute, Nelson Hughes is not black.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, he wonderful guy. He's commented on a few of my Sense 11 shorts and that, but I definitely said to him, hey, just because you're a person of color doesn't mean we have to do the racial ones. We can do any of them. You know what I mean?
No, I'm only doing inky, and I'm only doing. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
that's right. Damn it, no. He look, he provided context for those, which is
Yeah,
great because otherwise, I'm just another white guy reviewing, these cartoons. But yeah, no, that's good. We want more people from varying backgrounds,
yeah,
male, women, trans, whatever. Who cares?
right.
We want more people.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about the Looney Tunes, I think, as time goes on, I mean, there are the offensive stuff if you choose to look for it. I mean, but for the
Mm,
most part, I think the majority of the thousand cartoons, will limit it to that, are probably pretty um safe and generally loved and transcend any particular gender or race or anything else, I would say. I mean, obviously there's the censored 11 and a few beyond that, but I mean that's a small percentage when there's a
mm.
thousand cartoons. If you could say probably the most is maybe closer to 100 cartoons or might have offensive material, that's a pretty small ratio, I would think.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I just finished editing today, actually, before we jumped on, and I've just uploaded it and told Warner's, no, this is fair use. Please approve the video. 14-carat rabbits, and on the surface, it's like, well, what's so offensive about that? Well, nothing blatant, but there is one little bit where you see me sounds like, oh, going all the way down to Chinese. Like he's
Yeah.
so stuff like that, may not sit well today, but it's very minor. You just got to watch it with those lens.
Right. The one thing I noticed, because I did watch all thousand cartoons a few years back in order, and it took me a few months. It wasn't like I just sat down one day
Yeah,
and did it.
in one night, yeah, just have
Yes.
multiple TVs going, yeah.
Although I don't know if you've seen it, it's on YouTube somewhere where somebody plays all thousand cartoons and there's these little boxes all on the screen all at the
Yes.
same time. And since Horton Hatches the Egg is the longest cartoon, at the end of it, that's the only one still playing for another minute and a half. It's really funny. But
It'd be
when it
that
starts,
one.
it's all wham, 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 with all the
Yes.
the bullseyes, and except for the bottom ones have that spinning W thing, whatever.
Exactly. So it would be, yeah, Horton and Cross Country Detours, I think, is the other that's the
Yeah,
longest as
but
well. I think those two, yeah.
but it's funny as the shorter ones pop off. There's more and more little black squares. So, yeah, I think it should be up. So it's on YouTube. It's just like all thousand Looney Tunes all at once. And they play with the audio, so you just hear this cacophony of noise. But hey, that's how I
It's
watched
there.
it. No, just kidding.
You
No,
know, that,
but when I did watch it, the one thing I was going to say about offensive cartoons, unfortunately, majority of them were done by Friz Freeling. That's what I discovered, and I don't
yes.
think he was racist in himself. It was just the times and what
Hmm.
people did. And I think he was probably the earliest director who directed most of the earlier cartoons, not exclusively, because had to get Harmon and Ising and stuff like that in those early years. And one could question, is Bosco offensive or not? But um, but it's like that was one thing I noticed And I think he did more of the censored 11 as well. But, overall, I don't think he intended to do that. And certainly later on, you know, most of his cartoons are very innocuous. So, you know,
Exactly. He still inserts the odd Civil War gag here and there and
mhm,
slave gag and that kind of stuff. Even as late as the early 50s. Both him and Tex Avery were the last directors, if you will, who actually just kept going with that because there was the outcry, of course, in the 40s. And by the 40s to the 50s, it then started winding down. And it was only really Frizz and Tex that did that sort of stuff anymore. Which is unfortunate, but hey, it is what it is.
yeah.
It is what it is.
I
But
was I was actually watching a documentary today before we went on here, and it's free on Amazon Prime. I assume it's worldwide, not just the U.S., but it's about Jack Warner. It's a brand new documentary, and it does show Looney Tunes clips, but that's not the focus of it. What I was saying, it was just that it talks about the transition from silent to sound, and of course, the infamous movie was The Jazz Singer, and of
of
course, there's
course,
blackface and everything like that. And I was just saying to my wife, it's kind of a shame that that's the one that made the transition from silent to sound that everybody knows, and it
mm,
has that stigma attached to it. It's like, oh
yeah,
well, it's like, but there it is.
but yeah, blackface is just pretty common. I mean, there was even early Mickey Mouse, Mickey's
Yeah.
Melodrama, and that one literally has a scene of Minnie Mouse exploding a piece of dynamite to yeah. I'm sure you can guess. So even Disney was doing it, just about every studio was doing it, but it was just seen as acceptable. I guess part of it is that they think, oh yeah, look, this was they're not complaining that it's fine, everyone's fair game, but they're like, well, what you're seeing on the screen is basically a parody of a parody because they don't really know what African Americans were really like. They just assumed. So anyway,
Yeah.
it was pretty bad,
Right.
but I don't know how
um,
we got into the whole
Well, it
racial
was a
stuff.
Looney Tunes thing. You mentioned, but you can repeat it. So how far along are you on the 1,000 cartoons? You said 14 Karat Rabbit, is that what it was?
Yes,
What
I've
what cartoon
recorded
number is that? Do you know? And what year?
644.
Okay. And have you done all 643 prior, or are you jumping around a
Yeah,
little bit?
no, I didn't pry, but here's I'll try and keep this as brief as I could. But
Okay.
my journey has been interesting, especially with Warner Brothers. Now, I will stress that it's their copyright; they have every right to do what they need to do. That's fine, but
Right.
they also need to respect the law in regards to fair use. So when I started this project, I actually started it as audio commentary. So similar to what people like Jerry Beckett, even yourself, you've done some commentaries before on those
Yeah.
the Patty Freeling sets.
Right.
I haven't heard them all. I will hear them all eventually.
What?
I'll get there. I'll get there. I'll get there. Um, so anyway, I was doing that, and when I did the first copyright short, which was Right in Bosco, that's the earliest Warner Brothers copyright short. They blocked the video. YouTube. I was like, oh, okay, what do I do now?
Hmm.
And I sent in a submission saying, oh, yeah, it's fair use. I thought, I only have like 80 subscribers by this point because no one cares about Bosco. I thought I used that as a training ground actually to do the first 100 or so, practice my voice. So when I did get to the good ones, I would be a lot better speaker.
Hmm.
So anyway, I sent it through and it came back, yeah, we've released it. It's like, oh, okay. So I just from then on just did a commentary, uploaded it, released it, and eventually, I was doing it solo, and then eventually I had friends on, but then once I reached 1946, all of a sudden I get an email. I had like 39 takedowns. I was like,
Ooh.
what? They were issuing takedowns, and so I managed to save the channel. But then a few days later, I get a call from the US. I'm like, what is this? And turns out it was actually Warner Brothers Legal. So we had a chat, and I know some would say, oh, you should have had maybe legal representation, but whatever. I worked in the insurance industry before, so I know the jargon. But if it got to a point where I really wasn't comfortable, I would have said, look, I'll speak to my lawyer. But I had a chat with her. She was nice. She was very reasonable. And so she basically said they all sat down and watched the videos and they said, look, what you're doing in terms of the content itself, the history in that is actually great. And they actually learned a thing or two, but they ultimately decided that they do not feel showing the cartoon from start to finish is fair use. That was their decision. Now, if they've made that decision, then that means they're confident if this matter went to court, they would most likely win. That's how they would feel. Okay.
Mhm.
So I agreed to take down all except for the public domain or your commentaries.
Right.
So unfortunately I had to do that. So then I had to retool my reviews, my commentaries into reviews. So starting in 1947, I did a few. I might actually even redo a few of those ones because I was still figuring it out. So that they became reviews. I started having guests again, and now they're like the ones you see today.
Right.
But then what do I do with the old stuff? I can't have the commentaries. I could put them on Patreon or whatever, but that's a lot of work. And honestly, some of them have some mistakes I'm not proud of.
Okay.
So what I've been doing is doing redos.
Mhm.
So I would have clips of the original commentary, new information, and then if someone wants to add in their 2 cents, about why Buddy is the greatest Looney Tunes character of all time,
Yeah.
I add that at the end as well. So I'm currently working through the redos.
Uh-huh.
So basically everything from 1947, actually 1946, I actually redid all 1946 first because that was where the takedowns happened. So from 1946 to now, the beginning of 1952, it's all there. Reviews for every cartoon. I've done all of 1932. I'm not redoing the Bosco public domain ones because that can be done anytime, doesn't matter. So 32, 33, now I'm up to 1934.
Mhm.
I've done most of the Bob Clampett ones because I'm jumping around to, have a bit of fun with that. And the Frank Tashlin ones.
Mhm.
I'm going to soon start redoing from 1940 as well. So that way I have the 1930s, do those in order, and 1940s, do those in order, and sort of, mix things up a bit.
Mhm.
Whew, I hope that was
Yeah, that's more
brief
than
enough. It's a bit all over the place. So to answer your question, yes and no.
Yeah. So when do you anticipate getting to 1969 and the proverbial Cool Cat and Merlin and Magic Mouse and all those? You think?
Well, it'll definitely take a few years. I mean,
Yeah.
I could get through these a lot faster if I had someone editing them for me. That's the reality. But at the same
Mhm.
time, I'm a firm believer in paying someone for their work.
Right.
Actually, if I'm going to hire someone to, I don't expect my fans or of the channel to go, oh, I'll do it for free. It's like, no,
Yeah.
because I've
Yeah.
seen way too many times people like, oh, uh, you should do work for me, and I'll give you the exposure. That's just insulting.
Hmm.
That's insulting.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no. I edit these things really quickly now. I can do these reviews. I did 14 Carat Rabbit, which was a 23-minute review.
Hmm.
Of course, one day I record them, right? But when it comes to editing, it takes me about 3-4 hours now to do. The challenge is, of course, I got 2 kids, and it's now school holidays here in Australia as we're recording this. Also, I do have a job. We, I make, maybe few $100 on YouTube, but that doesn't pay the bills, right? So,
Right.
um, I gotta juggle everything. Similar to you when you write your books, you work
Yeah.
and you write.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So to answer your question, if I didn't have a job,
Yeah. Yeah.
I could do a review a day pretty much, yeah,
Yeah.
if I wanted
Okay.
to.
Fair enough. And then I guess we've asked this before, but I'll ask again: is the goal after this is done to do other studios' cartoons and things like that, or
Yeah. So the
or
idea
go
is,
beyond 69 with Looney Tunes, or is that your cutoff?
I'll probably will go beyond. I think it'll be interesting to do at least. Maybe the cutoff will be once the all of the original creators are passed on. So like maybe the last of the Chuck Jones ones, which was the what was the HMAS Pitiful one with Bugs and Yosemite Sam, like the only pure Yosemite Sam short that Chuck Jones ever did. That might be the cutoff.
Hmm.
I'm not sure yet, but I figure once I get to the quote unquote boring, Daffy and Speedy ones, the beautiful Patty Freely ones, I'll probably end up reviewing something that's a bit more exciting alongside it with a different studio. Maybe even do the Tex Avery MGMs or
Hmm.
something along those lines. But first, I want to get through the redos. It's definitely been a sore point for me not having those commentaries up, having to take them down. So I think once those are up and I'm just doing the new stuff, I may even do another series alongside it. I've actually just started I uploaded earlier last week my review for the Looney Tunes Collector's Choice. I want to do something, different stuff live. I even got it right here. See,
Of
wow. And
course,
by
now there's going to
pure,
be a volume two, but I don't know what cartoons are on it yet. So,
but that's the thing. That was like the oddest bit of coincidence. I legitimately did not know they were going to do some sort of announcement at that time. I really
yeah,
didn't know,
yeah,
but I'm happy they
hmm
announced it.
yeah, and I'm glad they are trying to put out new cartoons. I mean, new cartoons in quotes.
Mm.
Not double and triple and quadruple dipping like they have done in the past. It's like it's great to see What's Opera Dog again for the 10th time, but I'd rather have a brand new cartoon that's never been to home video for at least since VHS days. So
Yeah, or Laserdisc. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So you're not going to cry over the fact that they probably won't put Elmer's candid camera back on disc again for any future volumes. I mean, how many times has that been on the physical media?
You know,
That
you know what's
Someone
funny?
must love it.
You know what's
Is that
funny
is that Jerry's
is,
doing?
yeah, he probably did. He says, never put this thing out. I hate this cartoon, but because he does if you read his book. But
Yeah, exactly.
the one thing it's funny is those Looney Tune collections they put out before this new series and after. I don't know if it's I think it was before the Platinum series, but after the Golden series they started doing individual series. So they had a Bug set, a Daffy set, Porky Pig.
Superstars.
Yeah, Superstars, that's right. There's one that's only on Amazon Prime and I downloaded it, and it's Elmer Fudd, and Elmer's candid camera is part of it. So
Beautiful.
and it's funny, why didn't they put that one on disc? But I guess maybe that's the reason. I don't know. But so I have it streaming at least, and anybody can buy it. It's just not available on physical media. So
Oh, exactly. I mean, what I do is, I pretty much rip them anyway in the highest quality I can, or at least within reason. There's some compression, but whatever. You trust me, you're not going to notice the difference unless you have you know,
yeah.
like a magnifying glass. But I have the my own media service, so it's kind of like my own Netflix. So I
Yeah.
have all the shorts on there, best possible quality at the time. I can update it anytime. They all have their titles, directors, voice artists, which voice artist part needs to be fixed, thanks to Keith Scott's wonderful book, which I have here as well.
There's
The
two of
Cartoon Voices. That's my Bible when I do these reviews.
Yep.
Shout out to, of course, Keith Scott,
Yep.
fellow Aussie as well, which is fantastic. We can,
And he's been on here a couple times
yeah,
too.
we
Yep.
can, we're in the same time zone, so I always thank him for that. That's always a great thing with recording.
Mhm.
And so basically, on any device I have, be it my TV, my phone, iPad, whatever, I can actually access any short I want. And I can even go further. I just don't have the time, but I can even go further and tag each short or each file with, okay, let's just say I want to isolate all the Bugs Bunnies, right? So on the back end, I can add tags,
Oh, that's
right?
cool.
So then that way, if I feel like just watching, okay, Chuck Jones, yep, I'll narrow it to Chuck Jones, and out of those, okay, which one's a Bugs Bunny? You'd add the tag Bugs Bunny, and they all show up. And
Cool.
I think that's a great little feature.
Yeah.
So whenever I head on over to the US one of these days, I'll set it up for you. How does that sound? You
Very
can have
good
a nice
because
little.
my situation of getting all 1,000 cartoons, I went the bootleg route. Yeah.
Gasp.
And it was around 2013, 2014. There's a bootlegger that no longer exists. I wonder why. Anyway, but they were selling uh all 1,000 cartoons plus, they actually had like all the more current ones, not the ones made for TV, but the more current theatrical ones and everything. So it was like 52 discs and it was $300. And I said sold, because golden collections weren't happening anymore. I think the platinum collections were done, and there's some double dipping. And I said, I want to see all these cartoons in some format before I
Yeah,
die, because I know out of 1,000 cartoons, there's probably about 100 or 200 at least that I've never seen, or if I did, I saw them when I was a kid, I forgot about them or whatever.
yeah.
And I will tell you, there are a couple Bugs Bunnies I had never seen before. You may know the titles better than me, but the one I sticks out in my mind is the one where Bugs is with Ralph Cramden and Ed Norton of the Honeymooners. I had never seen that one before, and I think it's partially because the Honeymooners is a little bit dated. The cartoon itself isn't very funny, and
Half Fair Hair, I think that's the one from
yeah,
1959. I think
and
that's the
I
one.
think it's still not on home video. I mean, I'm not looking forward to it. It's just that,
It's
you
on
can
the
tell
Bugs
me.
80th. If it's that one, it's
Okay,
on the Bugs 80th. Yeah, yeah.
okay, but it wasn't out at the time, or at least it wasn't on DVD at the time when I got this collection. Now,
Yeah.
the collection isn't perfect, because I mean, one thing that you're talking about is like I can upgrade it anytime I want. I can also just watch it, Bugs if I want, or just Pepe Le Pew or whatever,
Yeah,
And it's
exactly
like
right.
with mine, it's all burned into discs. They're all chronological order of varying quality. Whoever put it together, most of them were recorded off Cartoon Network back in the day when Cartoon Network played such things.
Actual
So,
cartoons.
so it has their little logo in the corner saying Cartoon Network. They didn't bother to blur it out or anything like that, which is fine. If you said Boomerang, and the ones that were the best looking ones obviously were ripped from existing discs. So, and the ones that had some most trouble spots were some of the Boscos, some of the Buddies, things like that, because those early ones still aren't that readily available. I mean, there's probably a resounding huzzah by Looney Tunes fans, but I wanted to see him at least once just to say, "Hey, I saw him." I think one of them's in
Yeah.
such poor shape on the disc; it just was like pixelated and skipping, and so I can probably safely say there's probably at least one cartoon I didn't see in Toto, but I can say it's not that big of a deal. It wasn't like the masterpiece cartoon that everybody's looking for, or something like that, and
Yeah, Buddy
certainly
Buddy the
all
God will be it.
right, and certainly all the censored 11 were there in all their glory, like Coal Black and everything else. So it's like, it's like, hey, so whoever put it together, because I don't even remember their names, I'd have to go, but they had like other DVD collections, like every Terry Tune, every Universal, Woody Woodpecker, was all the Universal, and every other studios. I don't know how they were able to access all these. Maybe they worked in the industry or traded over the years with friends or whatever. But unfortunately, they're long gone, so I can't buy all those other ones. But nowadays with YouTube, things get put up all the time. Like I think you can see most, if not all, the Terry Tunes now on YouTube. You know,
Yeah, exactly right.
so, but I'm talking like just 10 years ago. It's like it wasn't quite the case, and so I said I want to see these things before I die. And so once I did get the collection, I proceeded to watch them a few every night for about a year. Took me about a year to get through all of them, so. And
Exactly, and really, what is Jerry Beck does need to be thanked for this I guess resurgence of the and of course George Fallenstein too, because as you said, in 2013, and I mentioned this in the review actually for the collector's choice. Yeah, like in 2013, once that Hippity Hopper Superstars came out, that was it. Like that,
yeah,
Jerry himself has said the vault was closed. It was like they just weren't doing anything anymore, and that was it. And so eventually they came out with that Porky 101 set, which that was really low budgeted to the point where a lot of the shorts had errors on them and that sort of thing. Which, look, I'm not picking on the set, but that was the reality. They
yeah,
couldn't even do a high def release because
yeah.
there just wasn't the
But it,
budget
it was
for it.
better than what I had, because on the bootleg
Yeah.
set they even resorted to some of those old colorized ones because they
Mm.
didn't have any of the other ones. So for me, it
Yeah.
was a godsend to see them in original black and white, even that there were some errors in it. So
Exactly.
so
Like Africa Squeaks is probably a big one. And I think that was like the major highlight. I mean, yeah, it's not a very, it's a racially insensitive, short, but it was still, it was still amazing to see it. And our mutual friend Manny Cruz did mention that he watched that on Nickelodeon for some reason. I don't know why they picked that cartoon, but it was so butchered. Like it was just had hardly. It was like a 4-minute cartoon or something because all the racial stuff was just removed and the cartoon just did not make sense whatsoever. So when he saw the full thing, he's like, "Oh,
yeah,
that's why." So when Porky 101, I guess didn't do as well as they thought originally. It eventually made a profit, but it was slower than they thought, and I think
yeah,
it was just because people were complaining about the titles and all that sort of stuff. So they did Popeye, not the 1940s Popeye Volume 1,
Mhm.
And Jerry was like, "Yeah, this is pretty much like a last ditch thing. You got to show your support,
I did.
otherwise they're not going to see it." And I bought it, and I didn't actually have the other Popeyes at the time. I'm like,
Oh,
"Yeah, I'll buy it." I haven't seen these. Doesn't cost me that much, even though I mean in Australia and the currency conversion and all that stuff. I bought it, and sure enough, it showed there was interest, and then of course Popeye 2 and 3. And of course, the Granddaddy, which I don't think anyone was expecting. That was Tex Avery, volume one,
mhm.
two, then three, which, yeah, had some errors, but that's COVID related,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
It is what it is. But still, even with those errors, seeing those cartoons in such quality,
yeah,
because the negatives, you're of course aware that there was the Vault Fire in the 60s,
right,
which got rid of a lot of the Tom and Jerry's and that, all the original negatives. But watching those sets, you wouldn't even know it. You would
right.
think that they went to original camera negatives when in fact they have these wizards there that would go, okay, this film stock has the best scenes 1, 5, and 10. This film stock has better versions of scene 2, whatever. They
Yeah,
put it together and then they clean it up and all this stuff. And again, you would not know that
no,
there was any errors. And then, and of course, they released Bugs Bunny Superstar, which is one of my intros to the Looney Tunes universe when I was a kid.
yeah,
And then, of course, yeah, now, as we mentioned, this. And I mean, what did you think of the restoration of Beanstalk Bunny? I mean, that's probably had my jaw
yeah.
like,
And it's kind of funny. Of course, I said I've seen them all, but it's like Camden and I both said this when it came out. Hasn't this already been out before? But it's like
no,
it really hasn't, because I did my research on it and I go, I mean, maybe it was on a VHS, way back when, but
it was on
it's certain,
Laserdisc.
and a laser disc, but to me, those formats don't count. It has to be on at least DVD, or Blu-ray, to count
Mm,
as an official release for me at this point.
mm,
So it's just kind of like, I mean, I used to have, well, I still have them. I used to have about 10 Looney Tunes on, or still have on 16 millimeter film.
mm.
And for years, they weren't on home video at all, not even VHS. I mean, one of them was the mouse that Jack built, the Jack Benny one.
Yeah.
And I do have, it just popped in my head. And now I can't think of it's the one with Porky and Daffy when they're in the hotel room is the Tashlin one, and it has a Bugs cameo at the end. What's that one called? Um, uh,
I've drawn a blank, and it's in the public domain, so it should be easy to
yeah.
find.
Anyway, the version I had was the colorized version, so but it was on 16 millimeter film,
Yeah,
and of course now it's out in nice pristine black and white. But
and in
yeah,
HD too.
yeah, so I don't mind that. I mean, it's like you mentioned Tex Avery there. It's like I remember when they were rumoring Tex Avery coming out on DVD back around 2005, and Jerry Beck and I were talking about it, and there was already a French set that came out. And Jerry told me, and he regrets this. He says, "Oh, save your pennies. There's going to be a better U.S. version coming out by Christmas." Well, I'm still
Yeah.
waiting. Well, no, the Blu-rays did eventually come out, but the set that was supposed to be identical to the French set but remastered and better never came out. And so for years, I cherished that French set. And then finally, they put a few on the Looney Tunes Platinum Volume 2, and then they put out the three sets, which I think are probably going to be the best we got. So yeah, it's missing a couple cartoons here and there, but hey,
Yeah, exactly right. And yeah, if you
excuse
freeze
me.
frame, there's some artifacts here and there, but again,
Yeah,
honestly, if you don't even know about them, you wouldn't
yeah.
even
and
see them.
and and they're eons better than the French set. I mean, the French sets are nice, but you can tell they didn't do a lot of cleanup on them. They're just good, solid
Mm.
film copies put on DVD, and that's what they did. Yeah,
Exactly. And I was listening to one of the podcasts with Jerry and George on it. I think it might have been the extras. I'm not sure. Or maybe it was a precursor to that wonderful podcast. But as I understand it, yes, there was the intention to release them. They did do the Droopies, the
mhm.
complete Droopy set, right?
Right, right,
Uh, but the idea was to try and get them out. But the way that they were cleaned up, the only ones that were properly restored were the CinemaScope ones, of course, the non-Avery ones. But the other ones, they did this restoration process that just didn't work. And if you look at the shorts on those DVDs, you'll notice there's a lot of smearing. There's a lot of details missing because they use what's called DVNR, which is digital video noise reduction. Now, there's nothing wrong with it. And in fact, restoration usually involves that at some point where they'll go through the whole short and they'll reduce the grain. But with animation, you run the risk of removing the animated line.
Hmm.
Okay, so they have to then go back frame by frame and go, okay, this remove this line, we've got to undo that, undo this, and fix this or whatever. Next frame, blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
I realize I'm oversimplifying because I know some restorations might be watching this and going, no, there's more to it. But then, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
simplifying. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just giving the easy thing.
Mm.
So but the Droopy set, as I understand, did not do that well, and that's why the Avery set did not come to fruition. That's my understanding of it, because they tried this thing to try and get them out, I guess, a little bit cheaper, because that process of just running DVNR and calling it a day would have
Mhm.
obviously been a lot cheaper than for a frame by frame restoration. There's probably more to this story, but as I understand it, the Droopy set just did not do well, and they couldn't get the
Yeah. I
Avery set off
mean,
the ground.
except for maybe the first Droopies for probably the first half of the first disc.
Yeah,
Probably most people who are wanting Tex Avery, they want the Little Red and Wolf,
mm,
and Screwy Squirrel and just the, you know, one-off cartoons like TV of Tomorrow more than Droopy. It's like Droopy's a good character, but when one wants, I bet if you ask most people that know their Tex Avery, the Droopy cartoons wouldn't necessarily be the number one they're looking for. It'd be one of the other ones. I
yeah,
bet you. Like my favorite one, I'd have to think about it, but yeah, little Rural Riding Hood is up there above most of the Droopies and things like that.
yeah.
And I like TV of Tomorrow and things like that. So it's like,
It's good,
but
silly fun.
to each its own. But I mean, that's what people are wanting, and so I could see. I thought that the Droopy set was like just a test, saying, "Oh, the Droopies are the safest ones we can put out because there's not too much offensive material in those." And then if that works, then we can take a bigger risk. But something else probably came along at that time. But I bought it anyway. I said, "Hey,
Mm,
Droopy's better than nothing."
exactly.
and they were improved from that French set again, so it's like,
Mm.
which I still have. So
Exactly. I think around that time as well, you had the 2008 financial crisis too. And I
yeah,
think
yeah,
physical media sales across the board just tanked. And that's why Jerry had to, I don't want to use the word beg because I don't think it was him groveling, please, 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 or anything like
yeah.
that. But I think he had to really convince them to even do a six golden collection. And he was like,
Yeah.
okay, I got one more set. What's the most important things we need to put on here? Which is and disappointingly, he didn't load up with all the buddies. But anyway, no, I kid, of course. But no, he put all the important stuff like Horton and that sort of stuff on that set. And now hear this. That's one of my favorite Chuck Jones cartoons. So stuff like that. So he did, very well with that set. But then of course it was cancelled. Then they tried the platinum collections, and again, I think with the platinum collections, the upgrades were great. I know there was a few new restorations that they did stuff up on, but again, whatever, we'll just put that to the side. But a lot of people were like, well, I already have most of them on DVD, and
Yeah.
Blu-rays was still fairly new. And I think it was just the market wasn't there at that time. If you
Yeah.
try Platinum Collection now,
Yeah.
I think you'd have a much better chance. They would have sold a lot better.
Yeah.
Um,
Which
that's
essentially,
what I
I
think.
guess, is that viewer's choice. That's
Hmm,
like a redo of Platinum. Doing it right is how I would call it, because it did bum me out that Platinum. Yeah, it's a Blu-ray upgrade, but lots of double dipping here. It's like I don't want to be
exactly.
double dipping on volume one. It's like if you're going to double dip, do it down the line when it's like you've
Hmm,
already done all the other good ones that you won't censor or whatever or release
hmm,
right away. Because like a good example is one thing I did like that they did in the Platinum Collection is they put all the Tasmanian Devils together, they put all the Marvin the Martians together.
yeah,
In that case, I didn't mind a double dip because I think like one or two of each of those were already previously released, but it's
yeah.
nice to have them all together in one chronological
Place.
place. Yeah. Although with your computer and streaming, and you can just type into as devil, you can get it yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're not there yet. So it's like,
Exactly. And they're great sets. I mean, I don't
yeah.
want people to think I'm putting down the Platinum Collections. I actually loved them. I bought them straight away. I even got the limited one for the first volume that had the shot glass in it.
Oh,
I was like, why not? I'm
yeah,
not too much of a drinker, but hey, it looks
yeah.
pretty cool. So I got that one, and I like the theming of it as well. Like first volume had the third disc that was spotlighting Chuck Jones, and the second one had the third disc spotlighting Tex Avery. And unfortunately, the third set, I think it was just, hey, this is your last one. Just
Yeah.
we're going to cut your budget, and it was just two discs, and see you
Yeah.
later.
One
But
thing
I
I did
still, yeah,
one thing I did do is in recent times for Warner Brothers 100th anniversary, they've reissued the cartoons only
yeah,
in a 6 disc set. And I actually thought that was a neat thing. Some people was like, they didn't put all the bonus extras. But it's like it got me to buy it again because I said it's just the cartoons on this one. So, you can just watch 6 disc cartoons with all without commentaries, without all the documentaries, blah blah blah. Just total Looney Tunes bliss. And if I want to see all that extra stuff, well, I do have the other sets, but it's like I kind of wish they did that with the Golden Collection too, have a second version that had just the cartoons, but
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I know they did the Spotlight collection, which is more family friendly. That they kept the bad cartoons, the naughty cartoons out of there. But what I'm hoping is, and I'll actually even ask you a question too. But
mm,
with the collector's choice, what I'm hoping is, of course, that the collector's choice focuses solely on new to DVD or Blu-ray, like stuff that has not been released at all in that generation.
yeah,
I'm hoping that they don't put on anything that was already in the Golden Collection. Yeah, I'd love to see upgrades
right,
on some of those. Of course, I would, because some of them are stuck on
yeah,
DVD. But I want them to just focus on everything new, and then later on, as you said, yeah,
yeah,
then go, okay, stuff that was already on DVD, let's upgrade them to HD now.
yeah.
And yes, that includes
I
Porky
agree with
101.
that. The only exception I might make is if they took something, but I think they already put it out. But like the Bugs Bunny Superstars, where they decided to make a widescreen version,
Yeah,
if they
Superstars, yeah.
corrected those,
Yeah.
I could handle it if they did that. But I think they already have on that Bugs Bunny 80th, I believe.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah.
They're all
So
just about being done,
yeah.
yeah.
So, again, that's a moot point. The only other exception is that there's something that really, for whatever reason, was chopped out. I can't even think of an example on the Golden Collection that they've since found. Well, yeah, you could put it on this collection, and I'd welcome that. But I don't know if is anything like that. It seems like they've found
Porky
most.
101 would be the only one. Like
Mm,
if they did a refresh of that
yeah,
in HD, because
yeah,
since that set was released and when HBO Max, now known as Max, came out, they actually remastered most of the non-restored Porkies
yeah,
anyway. So
yeah,
all you would have to do is just restore like Africa Squeaks and a few of those really, like I said, naughty ones.
yeah,
And I think because a few of the ones when it comes to the title screen, you'd be like, oh, whatever, big deal. But there was actually I think 2 or 3 shorts where the
yeah,
opening gags were ruined because they had the wrong song in the front. So
right,
I'd love to see Lone Stranger and Porky in HD. I think that
yeah,
one's very underrated. It's a great
yeah.
one. But
But if you're going to do that with these the collector's choice, I would rather have them like sprinkle them in rather than having a whole disc, of Porky again.
mm,
Just to get another collector's choice out there because to me that's like a repeat of 101, and that's a big snore for me.
mm,
Even if it's upgraded. So um, I think so far they're doing the right thing. Time will
yeah.
tell. Um, I wish other studios would kind of follow suit, but it's like we're in that weird period of, it's like what is going to be the future of home video? And is it going to be a disc, or is it going to be a 4K disc, or is it going to be a flash drive, or is it going to just be streaming, or is it just going to be in the cloud somewhere? Where are we going with all this at this point? Which is kind of frustrating because, you know, I mean, you're probably the same way. You want everything all in the same format.
Exactly. Look, I got the collection here, which I'm still sorting out, by the way, so it's a little bit messy, unfortunately. But anyway, but I know 4K UHD, that will probably remain a niche in the same way the Laserdiscs were. That's what I think is regular Blu-ray. I think might have a resurgence, but people still are fine with DVDs.
Yeah.
Like they don't want to upgrade. No, that's cool. That's their choice. I'm not gonna pick on them for
Well,
that.
I
But
will say this about Blu-ray. When Blu-ray came out, I did not have the largest TV, and I didn't see an appreciable difference. I had a Blu-ray player because I wanted to play the things, but I didn't see that much of a difference. I have since bought a larger TV, and my dad has an even larger TV. His is like 60 something inches or something. The largest TVs are over 70 or 80 now. But it's like as you get larger and larger on those screens, the higher definition definitely is noticeable,
yeah,
especially if you have a lower grade, uh, what are they, 420 as opposed to 1080. I don't know all the numbers and lingo as far.
480i.
Yeah, yeah. And, it's really noticeable that it's like, oh, that looks a little grainy now, because
Yeah,
whereas before when it was on your small screen, oh, that looks fine, and,
exactly.
so, for me, I've only recently made kind of the switch to Blu-ray. I buy an occasional Blu-ray now, but whereas just a couple years ago, I would tend to just buy a DVD over Blu-ray. Now I'll buy a Blu-ray over a DVD, and I think it's just because I got the larger screen. They tend to put more extras on the Blu-ray, and the price differential isn't as tremendous as it once was. Now I'm
Mm.
at that level with I'll buy a Blu-ray, but do I want to go to 4K? And the price differential is, like that. It's like, I
Yeah.
don't know. You know,
No, it's
um,
fair. It's fair enough. Because when DVDs were first designed, TVs back then could only output interlace, which is basically half the lines appear in a split second versus another. So that's why you get a lot of the shimmering effect.
mhm,
But that was then. But then once the high definition standard came out, HD TV and that sort of stuff, yeah, the Blu-rays were designed to accommodate for that. And 4K was interesting because that came out in I think 2015. That was finalized where they finally were
mhm.
able to add like 100 GB discs, like massive, like 4 layers instead of two, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But streaming then had started really taking off from then. So it was a kind of interesting thing. You got the 4K disc, but then streaming took off. And so now we're at a point where, yeah, 4K disc, I'd say yes, even as a collector, is a niche.
Yeah.
Blu-ray, normal regular Blu-ray, perfectly fine. The real reason you want 4K is for the for the HDR, the great color grading,
Mhm.
and the really uncompressed sound. Like I watched the second Avatar, I got that on 4K, and man, it's out of this world. I mean, literally, of course, it was the movie, and of course, figuratively, it's just the colors just pop, and it's just absolutely incredible. So, but I can't imagine the Blu-ray version looking terrible or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
But this is like the best possible version.
Let me ask you this. So you have your 4K. How big is your screen?
A
Uh,
75 inch.
okay. Do you notice an appreciable difference between 4K and Blu-ray on older films?
I can.
Okay.
Black and white, maybe not as much, but I
Okay.
find the HDR grading also helps with the black and white balance. So
Hmm.
HDR makes the whites whiter and the blacks blacker. So you do notice it. But then again, most people probably won't. Most people look at it and not really see much of a
Yeah.
difference.
And I'm talking
Um, I,
live action more than cartoons because cartoons you can finagle with
yeah,
technology and make them look great,
exactly.
if you want. Uh,
Exactly, because I had the Blu-ray of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington,
mhm,
and that was fine. It was actually was mastered in 4K, right? But then as part of the Columbia Classics collection, which had that on 4K, it just happened to be there. I wasn't planning on getting the 4K of that, mind you. It was just part of it, and I wanted the other films like Lawrence of Arabia and Gandhi,
mhm,
and so I watched it, and yeah, there is a difference. You can tell, but
mhm.
it's subtle. It's
Yeah.
very, very subtle. That's why another caveat is okay with Blu-ray, regular Blu-ray. If something is mastered in 4K and then compressed down to Blu-ray, it looks very close to 4K, except for the HDR color grading. Okay, that's why this looks amazing, because these were scanned in 4K.
Ah,
But I can't imagine the cartoons looking that much better if they were released on 4K UHD.
got it.
I would think it's overkill, and like I said, I'm a collector of 4K, and I would think it's overkill.
Yeah.
But yes, there's a difference, but you need the bigger TVs to really appreciate it.
Right. And there's probably somebody watching. I disagree with that, but yeah,
Yeah, you can disagree.
I didn't see a noticeable difference, and I don't have a 4K TV, so I'm only looking in like the shops and stuff, just seeing, ooh, so, but someone who collects them, that's why I had to ask, if you
Yeah.
can notice it, and someone who cares about such things,
Hmm.
so that's interesting. Um, Backing up a bit, I want to ask you some Australian questions just out of
Uh-oh.
curiosity. Um,
No, we don't ride in kangaroos to work
no, no, no,
in the
no, no.
pouches.
No, it's more to do with movies and cartoons. Um, your TV, was it PAL or NTSC?
It doesn't, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't, that doesn't exist anymore.
No, no,
From what I
I
understand.
mean back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't mean
Oh,
current.
back in the
Yeah, that's what I'm going back.
PAL, yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
old system back in the 90s, I haven't heard that term in a while actually, but back
yeah,
in the 90s and that, yeah, PAL. And I would remember having some NTSC tapes because there were a few things that just wasn't available here. It
right,
was bootleg. Shh.
right, right,
Yeah.
right.
Like, for example, the Tom Cruise film Legend.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so that infamously had multiple cuts, and the one we couldn't get here was the North American cut that had the Tangerine Dream or whatever they called the band. They did the music instead of Jerry Goldsmith, and the only way you could get the American one was via bootleg, and but that was
right,
an NTSC, so I had to have a special VHS player to sort of convert it. I forgot how it did it. It was ages
right,
ago,
right.
but it
No,
was
no
definitely a PAL
matter.
system similar to what the Japanese had, so it's sort of like on par with what they had.
Okay. Just kind of curious because it's like I think more people around the world had PAL than NTSC, but I know
Correct.
NTSC made that way around. But I think PAL entered into the picture slightly later and just took over by just virtue of starting later, and so that was the standard. They said, "Oh, this is better. We're just gonna." And us stubborn Yanks here just said, we're just sticking with what we got."
Well, but
Yeah.
to be fair, PAL has a different frame rate as well. So sometimes some films will feel a bit unnatural, like it's sped up. It's like a 4% speed up.
Yeah.
So again, most people won't even notice it. But I'm sure if I look back now on my PAL tapes, I'll be like, oh, this seems a bit slightly quicker than before. If it's
Mm,
a film I'm familiar with, like maybe RoboCop or whatever.
yeah. Of course, it might be a situation like they've done here, where it's something shown where they actually have artificially sped it up just to fit
Mm,
more commercials and stuff like that.
mm,
I've noticed that on old sitcoms and stuff like that, and you don't notice it during the show too much because it's just people talking. But once you get to like the theme song, like let's say Green Acres, it's all instead of da 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 da, it's all da 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 da. It's like
yeah.
slightly faster, and you're like, hey, that's not right. Anyway, um, now I'm currently working on a book called TV Animation. It was called TV Cartoons, but Scott Shaw's doing the cover, and he said you should do TV animation. So I said, okay, TV animation that is forgotten. And now, someone like you or I, who are historians, have studied all this. It's like it's not forgotten. It's on my shelf back here, But
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
is that did Australia? This is another childhood question. Did Australia generally get all the same stuff that the US made? Or was this stuff you did not generally see until maybe home video or DVDs or Blu-rays or whatever?
We got the most popular stuff. So, for
Okay.
example, when Ninja Turtles was a huge thing, we had the Ninja Turtles cartoon,
Right.
for example.
Hmm.
We had a mixture of the US and UK
Hmm.
TVs. And are we talking specifically animation or
Yeah, more animation just for the
more
sake of the
animation?
book.
All
But I
right,
mean, I
yeah,
know there's the live action stuff that,
of course,
made it around world and others
yeah,
that didn't, So,
because we had Sesame Street, that kind of stuff, in the
yeah.
US. Because I remember, grew up with that. But then we had the Australian kids show called Play School that's been around for 50 years. So that's that kind of thing. But because we've had our origins, it was still, I guess, part of the British Crown. We're still part of the monarchy. Our head of state is the King Charles.
Hmm.
But anyway. so we would have a lot of stuff from Britain, especially when I was growing up. Maybe not as much today, but a lot of the kids' stuff would come from there. And I'm talking more kids' stuff
Yeah.
at the
So
moment.
you got stuff like Danger Mouse more than like say we would or something, things like
Yeah,
that. That's the
exactly.
one that just popped in my head. It's like
There was stuff like
British
I
origin.
mean, have you heard of Super Ted?
Yeah, it wasn't very
Yeah,
popular here, but it made it around. It was
it was
more a
popular here. Yeah,
cable thing.
like
A lot of
Raggy
things ended.
Dolls and
Yeah.
I'm trying to really think back here when I
Yeah.
was younger. But there was a lot of British stuff. I mean, yeah, there was Australian stuff too, of course. But it was more of a case of, well, it's actually cheaper to import than it is to make our own stuff because our population it's still small. It's only like 28 million, and our land mass is like the same, nearly the same as the US. So
Right, right.
compared to 400 and whatever million what you guys have.
You're all around the coast.
Oh yeah, just spots around the
Right,
coast and
right.
like maybe five people living in one like 200 kilometer, 600 kilometer region, like or a few hundred miles, as you guys say. So,
Right.
but there were Australian things like Blinky Bill. I mean, you might want to ask Keith Scott because he actually did voices on that show.
Mhm, mhm.
So we and just for those who don't know, Blinky Bill was basically a koala, and it was just the adventures of the koala and his friends in the forest trying to prevent the forest being cut down or whatever. I
Mhm.
actually did see recently they did do, I suppose, a reboot, and just like what everyone seems to be doing, let's make it cheaper and let's do some outsourced CG animation, and it looked awful. It looked absolutely. It didn't look good at all. I was like, all right, fine. I'm not the target audience for this kind of show, but I know if my kids try to watch that, they'll be like, this looks bland and uninteresting. I'm not going to bother watching it.
Mhm.
Whereas Bluey,
Mhm.
I mean, say what you want about it. That thing's a juggernaut.
Mhm.
And I actually met the author. He was at the convention. This was before Bluey blew up, and he was doing the usual thing at conventions, drawing and whatever, and meeting people and stuff like that. So um, so it does work. Hustle does work, kids. You might make the next Bluey.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
But as a kid, I mean, you are younger than me, but I mean, did you get like every Hanna-Barbera thing that came down the pike from us? So you got your Roman holidays and your Chan Clan and your Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch and all that stuff, or is that kind of like, no,
More
we
or
didn't?
less.
Yeah, okay.
More or less. Weirdly enough, last night I started writing the script for my next physical media review, which I can reveal exclusively will be for Hey There, It's Yogi Bear. I'm going to do that
Right.
Blu-ray release.
Yeah.
And I was writing the script and I was writing about my experiences with Hanna-Barbera and how feels like they're mostly forgotten now, which could be another topic for another video we could do. But but growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, and so on, Hanna-Barbera, Cartoon Network came here about the mid 90s. So
Mhm.
before then, yeah, they played a lot of the Hanna-Barbera stuff, in the mornings or after school. They would have some cartoons as well, Looney Tunes. We had Kids WB.
Mhm. Mhm.
And all that stuff. But yeah, we had Yogi Bear and other stuff. And then when Cartoon Network came, I think we shared the same broadcast with Singapore and Southeast Asia at first. But
Mhm.
they played all of the, well, some might say classics. I mean, come on, Josie the Pussycats and that kind of beautiful
Right. Right.
stuff. But they played that mixed up with the new stuff, Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab, Johnny Bravo, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So we definitely had all of that. So yeah, but some of them, like the Chan Clan, I don't recall seeing. Maybe was shown, but I don't recall. Jab Things like Jabberjaw, I don't recall seeing. Wait till your father gets home. We never saw that. I actually discovered that on DVD years later.
So yeah, you didn't get everything. Okay.
I mean,
I'm
Scooby
thinking,
Doo, of course, is
yeah, and I'm thinking what was on TV prior to Cartoon Network, because I'm sure Cartoon Network homogenized a lot of things around the world, and
yeah.
it's like everybody sees everything. So it's like, but like, did you get all the theatrical cartoons? Like, did you get the old Terry Toons and the old Woody Woodpeckers and everything like that, or is it like hit and miss before?
Hit and miss.
Okay.
Looney Tunes definitely because of
Yeah.
Kids WB,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
eventually they played on Cartoon Network once we got it as well. But both, we had both things.
Yeah.
Disney, we did have the Disney Channel as well. That came about the time Cartoon Network, because we had cable TV. It came into Australia about the mid-90s, at least where I am. So
Yeah.
we had satellite and cable, but before that it was just aerial,
Yeah.
like four channels pretty much. That's it. So Disney was shown. In fact, I even saw Song of the South on Disney Channel here. Would you believe? I could not. That's a bit surprising. So they actually did show it here once, and only
Hmm.
once, I think.
Hmm.
And we won't get into that that topic.
Yeah.
uh,
Well, it came out on Laserdisc in Japan, so I mean, it was that side of the world pretty more commonly available. I mean, everybody here's gotten a bootleg again, but it's like, yeah.
Gasp. But
But
as for Woody Woodpecker, it might have been shown. I don't recall seeing it. It may have been shown. Definitely not Terry Tunes. I know some anime pretty much started.
yeah,
There was a Cartoon Network nighttime block where they started showing anime like Neon Genesis, that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Astro Boy. That I've seen that. So yeah, hit or miss. Tom and Jerry, yes, and some Tex Avery's were mixed in with that. So yeah, just
Okay.
whatever was, I guess, more popular and worth exporting to Australia.
And then over the years, and I'm going to talk about this in the book, is there's a few shows that originated in Australia, among other things, and then they made it over here. But it's like they're not commonly known, but I just know they were made there. Some are Hanna-Barbera. It's like I think like some of the Funky Phantoms were made down there. There's Drac Pack and Dinky the Dog and
Ricky
uh,
Koala.
yeah, oh yeah, and um, there's a series called Around the World in 80 Days that was Australian based and stuff like that. Was that shown more commonly down there, or did they create stuff like that, to your knowledge, just for the U.S. market and stuff like that because it's bigger?
It must have been just for the US market because I've never seen any of that here at
Okay.
all.
I mean, it's on
It,
it's on home video now. I mean, if
yeah,
somebody wants to look it up, but they were made in Australia, so you know,
exactly, yeah, because
yeah,
Hanna-Barbera, yeah, opened up I guess a satellite studio, I think in
yeah,
Sydney, I
yeah. It was called
think.
Southern Star at one point, and
Yeah,
I think they changed the name over the years to like Hanna-Barbera
I
Australia or
think,
something, So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly, because as we all know, and some people may not know in the watching this, yeah, Hanna-Barbera, yeah, they basically just expanded to the point where they just needed to get outside help because they were just, it was like a sausage factory. I think after the Taft Corporation bought them, they start, and of course, like Scooby Doo exploded, it was like, make more of this, more of this, more of this,
yeah,
and oh, can we do these funny drawings? No, we got to keep
yeah,
on low budgets and appease the censors and that sort of
yeah.
stuff. And part of that is, of course, opening up satellite studios. I think Australia, I think Canada. Did Canada have one? I'm trying to remember. There was another satellite studio somewhere else.
Well, they had their own studios. I mean,
Yeah,
Canada,
yeah, they're the main one. Yeah.
Nelvana, and things
Mm.
like that.
So
But
maybe
yeah,
they got them to help. But then, of course, during the 80s, we see how the in-betweening starts getting farmed out to
yeah,
other places
yeah,
and to cut costs, and I think that's been detrimental in the long run to artistic ness, if
yeah,
that's a word,
yeah.
because the old masters, they learn by in-betweening. Basically, that's how they got so good, whereas now if you're just drawing key poses and stuff and using the
Mhm,
algorithms to change, yeah, it
mhm.
doesn't quite work as well. But anyway, I
Now,
digress.
now, did you ever get any like really obscure stuff? Like some of the stuff I'm talking about in the book, like Hal Seeger stuff, and I'll mention some titles. Like Milton the Monster, and Fearless Fly, and these aren't ringing a bell with you, so I guess not.
No,
These are
no,
from the '60s and stuff.
no.
It's
See,
like,
my dad may have seen him.
yeah,
And I might even ask him if you remind me. I can ask about those tiles if he saw them or not. And
yeah,
um, but then again, by that point, maybe he was chasing women. By that point, he was a teenager. He
yeah. I
he
mean,
came
some
to
of those
Australia
predate me, but
later.
I mean, it's like, and or even something going even further back, like Crusader Rabbit, which dates back to the late 1940s. But it's
Hmm.
like, and then they made a new series in the late 1950s. Or
Hmm.
things like Calvin and the Colonel, and or did you get like the Three Stooges cartoons, a Clutch Cargo, or anything? See, a lot of that stuff I'm covering
No,
in this book.
as far
Yeah,
as I'm aware, no.
yeah,
At least me growing up, maybe they
Yeah.
realized that how terrible it was, and hey, we could actually import some good stuff now, so we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
show that.
I'm sure the better stuff, I can't say always the best stuff. I'm sure the better stuff tended to be imported and or exported. I mean,
Mm,
I don't know what shows officially came, if there's any cartoons that officially came that were solely Australian, but I mean, over the years, I know there's like the Wiggles, and the Wombles and
yeah.
let's see. And then for comedy, Paul Hogan had a show which came over here a little bit. It wasn't like gangbusters, and
Mm,
but it's just things I remember coming from Australia that
yeah.
I go, hey, wow, cool.
Yeah,
Because
it's like evening viewers, that kind of evening viewers. Like he does the whole what we call the Aussie larrikin, the laid back, kind of bloke. Of course, Hogan went on to do Crocodile Dundee, which was a huge
yeah.
smash hit.
And strangely enough, when those became a big hit, his old show went away. And it's
It's
like
weird.
I like the old show because it was kind of like Monty Python and stuff like that. But it's okay. Like one of the
Oh,
things,
I could send them to you if you if
like
you
the one
if
I
you need.
remember, and is like he did a combination of Hawaii Five O with Benny Hill. It was called Benny 50. And so they're running around in the Hawaiian Islands, with their guns drawn, but really fast, like they used to do with the Yakety sax playing in the background and all that stuff. So,
Well, we had Benny Hill here. We did have
yeah,
Benny Hill here, so
yeah,
I know who that is.
yeah, yeah.
So,
So, I mean, that's the type of stuff that is on that Paul Hogan show. I've heard in recent times he's kind of like a Bill Cosby or Rolf Harris or something. He's gotten a little bit of trouble here. So, but anyway, it doesn't hinder my enjoyment of some of these things, because hey, they did that, and
yeah,
that was
I think with Benny Hill, I think it was just more, is Benny Hill still funny today? I
yeah.
don't think I've heard any allegations of anything bad, along the lines of Rolf Harris
Yeah.
and
The only
Bill
thing they say
Cosby.
about
Yeah,
Benny Hill is they always kind of say is his stuff dated because it might be considered sexist or
yeah, that
something,
sort of thing. That could be
and
up for
it's like,
debate.
hmm,
But I don't think he
yeah.
was a monster in terms of like the other two.
No, no. I mean, he was a very private person. I heard, like in interviews with Dick Van Dyke for Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, he was very quiet to himself. He didn't talk to anybody until he was supposed to be on, and then suddenly, boom, it's like a lot of actors. They're quiet and reserved until they acting.
Exactly, but yeah, because you mentioned Rolf Harris, and the funniest
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
about that is how, yeah, I think I mentioned to you in a comment, we had this DVD set that came out, but 50 years of television in Australia. One of the channels is Channel 9, and
Mhm.
which I got. It was actually a pretty good set. It's got some really cool rarities about the history, and of course, one of the big milestones was the whole Rolf Harris doing the board, Timey Kangaroo down sport.
Right.
And it was just amazing how he was so revered. He did the painted the Queen and did all this stuff. He had murals everywhere. And then as soon as all this stuff came out and was confirmed, like
Yeah.
that, yeah, he did some really bad things. How just when his death was announced, it was like, all right, good riddance. No one cared. Like,
Yeah, unfortunate. But, if you really did those things, it's kind of unfortunate there. I still have a tendency to separate the person from their things
hmm,
because I mean, if I couldn't be a Beatles fan, for example, you have Ringo in your shirt, because I've heard horrible things about John Lennon. He's like, you know, it's written some of my favorite songs of all time. If I really analyzed and said he was a horrible person to his wife and everything, well, then I couldn't listen to it all. But it's like, hey,
or wear these Beatles socks, which I was bought. So you can people think, oh, you must have prepared for a Beatles thing because I had the socks right there. No,
oh,
no, no.
I didn't. I just had this book right. But yeah, the legitimate reason I have this book, I don't know if you've ever seen this book called The Beatles on Record. It's dated now. It came out in the early '80s, but I tend to post on Facebook 50 years ago, and so I said, "Oh, we're getting into late 2023." Ringo's album came out, the one called Ringo, and so at the end of '73, it was Photograph and Mind Games there. So I put up Photograph today because September 24th, 1973, so 50 years ago. So There we go.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, and I'm even wearing Ringo's shirts.
There we
This is
go.
when I
So,
saw him.
yeah.
That's, when I saw him in 2013, and in a few weeks from this recording, I'm finally going to see Paul McCartney in concert. So that's going to be good.
Oh, I'm not wearing that. This is a show that even people in the United States wouldn't know necessarily. This is Charlie and Humphrey. It was a children's show that aired in San Francisco, Bay Area, and they used to do a half-hour show in the '70s, and then later they did these little, what do they call them? Public service announcements. I don't know if they have a similar thing like that in
They
Australia.
they do. Yeah, yeah. They
Where
they
they
did a
take
lot more.
regular
Yeah.
characters and they're doing like a 30-minute spot. Well, it's like what you've seen probably at the end of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It's like, look both ways before you cross the street, that type of thing. So, I mean,
Oh,
so
exactly.
this says glue, I need glue. And the theme of it was borrowing without asking because the dog here, oh, that's the dog, Humphrey borrowed the lamp without asking. And then he sneezes, the lamp breaks. And then he says, glue, I need glue. Anyway, so that's the story on that.
I thought it was one of the Beanie and Cecil characters. Looks very similar.
It
Like
is very similar, just strangely enough. I
yeah,
mean, this is a horse, Charlie the horse, Charlie horse. And
yeah.
but
It's a
they're
real
big in the
horse.
San Francisco Bay Area. But outside of that, if you're even in Los Angeles or on the East Coast, unless you migrated around, you wouldn't know.
No,
So
exactly
this
right.
is, but when I saw this shirt, I said, "Oh my God, somebody made a shirt!" So gotta buy it.
Of
Anyways,
course,
uh,
definitely.
so your Ringo shirt says 2013 then? Is that what it
Yep,
says?
yep,
Okay.
yep. Yeah,
Okay,
so
because
10
the
years.
album with that cover is Ringo 2012. So I was wondering, it's hard to tell if that's a 2 or a 3, but it looks like a 3.
That's
So
it's three. They
yeah.
just probably repurposed it for the show, which he actually played at Festival Hall in West Melbourne, and that was the
Mhm.
place where the Beatles played back in the 60s.
Okay.
So
I've
it
been
was a
doing a lot of Beatles shows recently. You're like one of the first non-Beatles shows I've done in a while. Here we're talking about the Beatles. That's okay. And I saw Ringo in June of this year. And the funny story about him is, and you probably remember this if you've seen him live there, is at the end, he's all doing the jumping jacks and everything like that. And he's 83 years old. And he plays outside stadiums a lot. So there's the grass to sit in, when you're further back. And he's doing jumping jacks on stage. Meanwhile, people that are probably at least 10 years younger, if not more, are like struggling to get up off the grass, like, at the end of the
yes,
concert. It's like, I had no trouble, fortunately, but yeah, I felt their pain. It's like, yeah.
yes. Definitely, definitely, definitely. I mean, my favorite line from the concert was he goes, "If you don't know this song, then I don't know what on earth you're doing here." And of course,
He
which
said
is
that at
Yellow
mine too. Yeah.
Submarine. Yeah,
Yes. Now when you saw him, the new one he did, I'd seen him before. The new one he did, he finally did Octopus's Garden, which I was very happy to hear. So,
yeah. I
and
don't think I don't think he played that. He
yeah,
was with his all-star band, and it was just all different,
yeah,
songs. It was a great concert. I
yeah.
loved it. It's just, yeah,
And I think this man I'm going to mention was also at your concert because he's been in the band many times, but he's a fellow Aussie, is Colin Hay, from Men at Work. So, he was at
yeah.
the current concert too. So, anyway, just a little Australian connection there.
Of
Anyways,
course.
so where are you seeing Paul, just out of curiosity, since you're going to see him?
We're seeing him, funnily enough, because my wife and I are going to see him, and
And when?
we're seeing him at this sports stadium now. I kid you not, it's called Marvel Stadium, and yes, it is Marvel, as in Marvel Comics, right?
Wow,
So
cool.
there's a small museum there with Marvel stuff and all that, and yeah, I think Marvel they just had the naming, they bought the naming rights, and it's called Marvel Stadium. Um, I mean, I hope. Look, the seats there are definitely a lot better. I saw Billy Joel in December at the fabled MCG, Melbourne Cricket Ground. That's one of the most famous stadiums in the whole world. But the seats were just so
Mhm.
cramped together, and I was having knee trouble. I was like, oh, this hurts. And the person next to me, thankfully, I think she got up and to go just to the ground just to dance or whatever. I'm thinking, oh, good. And I just rotated over like, oh, that's so much better. But
Yeah.
so hopefully the seats here are not going to be as bad. But I was surprised because it sold out pretty quickly, the McCartney concert, but they didn't announce a second night in Melbourne, which was, I'm sure he would have sold that out if he did it, but
Mhm.
there's a second one for Sydney, but not Melbourne. But whatever.
Hmm.
I got my tickets. I'm happy. I missed out on
Cool.
seeing him in 2017. Because funny story with that. I book a holiday for 10-year wedding anniversary with myself and my wife, and I have to bring the kids along because, we're going to go for a month to Japan. So I book it December 2017. We're excited. We're going to go, right? And then a few weeks later, Paul McCartney announces, "Yeah, I'm coming back to Australia after so many years." Great. When are you coming? December 2017. Really? Like, so, and I thought, okay, maybe he might be in Japan when I'm there. I might see him in Japan.
Yeah.
No, he's coming when I'm leaving.
Oh, he doesn't tend to hit Japan as much as he should. Maybe because he got thrown in jail that one time. I don't know. I
Well,
mean,
he was actually going. He was legitimately going there. It was
yeah.
just, yeah, unfortunately, I
But
was leaving
but
the
I think
country
this
when it was
current time,
coming.
isn't he only going to Australia and then coming back? I think I could be wrong on that.
I think so.
Yeah.
He's even doing a concert in a rather more intimate sort of arena. I think that would be interesting. And this is only like maybe 10,000 people or something. Like this is small, by concert standards. So I think that would be interesting, like in a smaller venue. Apparently, those tickets 5 minutes completely gone. So
If you
not
don't mind,
surprising.
if you don't mind me asking, you don't have to say how much were the tickets.
Let's see, 300 a person.
Ooh,
So, but that's Australian dollars. So the
but still,
equivalent,
even
the
in American dollars, it's going to be similar.
it'll be like $220 US probably. Will be
Yeah,
probably the,
yeah,
but but here's the thing: I don't go to concerts that often
yeah,
at all. I know that, and I'm not going to try and justify because hey, I said hey, I want to do this.
yeah,
It's one of those rare times I'm willing to splurge.
yeah.
Um, versus like sometimes you'll spend a lot of money and be like, oh, why did I bother buying this? Whereas in this case,
Right.
it's worth it. I actually spent money to see Bob Dylan in concert, and I left after 15 minutes because the guy
Ooh.
sounded like Scooby Doo on stage. He was awful.
Uh,
Look, Bob Dylan never had the greatest singing voice. We all know this, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
the problem was you go there for the poetry, the lyrics and stuff, and yet
yeah.
the guy was like like that, you could not hear a thing. It was so
Wow.
bad.
That's
He
even
was
that's even worse when I saw him, and I saw him probably about 10 years ago. And
yeah, that was about when I
I,
saw him.
I
Yeah,
always
about
tell
10 years
people
ago.
I just went because I should go. I was never a huge Dylan fan, but I said I
Yeah,
should go. And fortunately, I had brushed up on like more of his current albums because that's pretty much what he played. So if you're going there trying to hear Blowing in the Wind and Mr. Tambourine Man or whatever, all his early stuff in the 60s, forget it. The earliest song he played one song, Tangled Up in Blue from 1974, but everything else was from this century. So
well, he was doing the early stuff
yeah,
he was doing the early stuff
yeah,
when I saw him, and yet
yeah.
he was so unintelligible, and a lot of people did leave. Like it was actually a flood of people just leaving. It was like, what is this? The Aussie singer Paul Kelly, he opened up for him,
Yeah,
and he was great,
yeah.
and yet, yeah. I shake my head, but I mean, I've seen Simon and Garfunkel live, and
That's cool.
I think that's probably one of the old Friends tour. I think that was the last thing, and I think
Yeah,
they stopped because I think
yeah.
Garfunkel had an issue with his
Yeah. Well,
throat or something.
Simon is now retired, period.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah,
So I'm glad I saw them.
yeah.
What else did I see? I mean, I've seen the Queen tribute band. Also, Elton John just before COVID shut everything down, and that was pretty good. He's a great entertainer.
Hmm.
Yeah, what else have I seen? Eric Clapton, I saw. I mean, yeah, again, as you mentioned before, separate the art from the artist. And I was third row center seeing Alice Cooper.
Hmm.
That was pretty good.
Yeah,
And what
he's
else did I
cool.
see?
Yeah.
And of course, the greatest one of all, which I know you're going to be jealous of this one, Billy Ocean.
Get out of my dreams. Get into
Yes.
my car. He's the
And
only artist. I don't know if he had it in Australia, but I think in America he has three top 10 or number one hits that have like eight. It's an 8 word title. Somebody said that out. So it's get
wow.
out of my dreams, get into my car, and I forgot all the Caribbean Queen, no more love on the run, and there's one other one. But anyway,
Love really hurts with that. No, it wouldn't be that one. But yeah,
Yeah,
but the thing is, because he's from the Caribbean, as we know,
yeah, yeah.
and he has white hair in that, but he's got these massive white hair dreadlocks, and
Oh,
it
I
was
didn't know
incredible. It was
that.
incredible,
Haven't seen him in a while.
and the greatest thing though, I have the tour shirt
Mhm,
still,
mhm.
and they misspelt Melbourne where I'm from, so I'm like, beautiful, love
All
it,
right, all right.
absolutely love it. So if you get a chance to see Billy Ocean, like no, seriously, he is an amazing entertainer.
Hmm.
Highly recommended.
Okay. I mean,
Um,
I do know a few of his things, obviously. So it's like, and I'm not immune to seeing, the price can deter me. Have you seen Paul before? Going back to
Paul
McCartney?
McCartney.
Yeah.
No. I tried
Okay,
to,
so
but yeah.
it's worth it then if you've never seen him before, and I encourage people to. But I've seen him 5 times before, and so the last time I saw him was 2005 when I thought the prices were starting to get a little high, and I said, I've already seen him.
Well,
I wasn't even going to see Ringo this time, except my wife said, "Oh, I've never seen him. Let's go see him." And Ringo wasn't too pricey, so I saw him for a sixth time.
exactly.
So
But we're sitting on the ground, well,
yeah,
with chairs, but on the
yeah,
ground level, midway
yeah.
center. So we're actually good seats.
Yeah,
So
no,
at
no,
least
I don't
okay.
blame you. I do that too. It's
Yeah.
just, for me, it's more the hassle of just getting it all set up. I mean,
Oh,
and it's like, but if you get it and everything, great. I mean, I'm actually doing something finally this next summer. There's a friend of mine who is on this show occasionally, Charles Rosenay, and after 41 years, I finally agreed to do his Liverpool and London Magical History Tour next August. I was almost going this year, but I chickened out the last minute. But I'm legitimately saving money to go for next August, and I will be
that's
going.
right.
So
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 write
that
some more
one's a
books and write and sell more books.
so that one's a few $1,000s. So I'm really buckling down and not buying a bunch of crap. So I don't even know, going back to Looney Tunes, if I'm going to get Looney Tunes that Blu-ray right away. It might be a Christmas present, wifey.
Gasp.
I know. It's on my want list, but it's like, it's just things like that. If I pass up on a lot of these things, then I can go on my trip. If I keep buying all these things for right now, it's only for a year. After a year, I can go back in my spending ways.
Nah, we'll restrict you from buying it. You're not allowed to buy it. Like, nah, too late. But it's in stock. Nah, you
Well, it
can't buy
could
it.
happen. I mean, that guy's name. I don't remember, but you've seen him, the guy who does the Puppetoons movies.
Yes.
There's like a volume 3, but silly me, I forgot to get volume 2, and I think it's long out of print now. And it's like, oh
Volume
well.
two is still available, but
Oh,
it's
okay,
volume one that's the hard one to get. Yeah,
okay,
which I
okay.
don't have sadly. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, I had
I'll
the original theatrical on DVD, but I know he had extra things to the Blu-ray in that one. So yeah, I don't have that one either. So it's like if I
see
start
how
with
we go.
three,
Yeah,
I'm going like, yeah. So yeah, but that's how these things go. It's like if you don't get them right away, then suddenly they're out of print, and then suddenly hundreds of dollars, and you're like,
well, yeah, I don't think this will be out of print, so I
no,
really
no,
don't.
I'm not
So
worried
no,
about that one. But
yeah,
I remember one of the things you said earlier when we were talking about like the winding down days of like the golden collections. Disney was kind of winding down their
Disney
Disney treasure
treasures,
tins, and I assume you got those down there.
all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, when the last ones came out, I was in a bit of a money crunch, and so fortunately, I chose above everything else to get Donald Duck Volume 4. But
Oof, yes.
yeah, but I skipped over a net, which I never got, and there's one other I think I can't.
Doctor Sin, alias
Doctor
Scarecrow.
Sin. Now,
Yeah.
Doctor Sin has since come out on Blu-ray through the Disney Movie Club, so it's kind of a wash there. But I'm so glad I got the Donald Duck Volume 4, because
Yes.
those are some of my favorite Donald Duck cartoons, and it's like I would just be like pulling what's left of my hair out, uh, just going, I need to see these. So anyway,
Yeah, and now they're going for like $400-500. So yeah.
exactly. So there's one time where I wisely made an investment when I really didn't have a lot of money, and I had to make a choice.
Yes.
I had to make a
Yeah,
choice. So Donald Duck won the day. So
of course. Of course.
um, let's see. I don't know if I asked you this when you've been on the show before, but I can always ask you again. What got you into watching cartoons in the first place? Just them being on, or did somebody introduce you to it? What happened? What was your
It just
story?
happened to be on. Yeah. And I had VHS tapes of the. I mean, this is another, I guess, Jerry Beck connection, which I didn't realize that till way after the fact. But they were released. That series of VHS tapes were like Daffy with exclamation mark,
Mm,
Elmer,
hmm.
yeah, that series, and
Yeah.
also the Tom and Jerry VHSs that they did. And there was like 6 volumes. I don't know if
Oh
there were
yeah.
more, but I got 6 of those, which kind of confused me in hindsight because I remember one of the shorts they had the Saturday Evening Puss, where originally it had the Mammy Two Shoes character, right?
Hmm.
But then since then they had the Chuck Jones, it was redrawn to be like an Irish girl or
Oh
something,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Hmm.
And yet for some reason on this VHS they had this girl, but they still had the Mammy Two Shoes voice, and it was just
So the audio didn't match the visual.
no,
In
it
other
did.
words, yeah.
It actually matched,
Uh,
right? But it just didn't.
well, I mean, not the same. Well, I mean, you're expecting a black or a person of color, and it was a
Yeah,
white person. Okay, got it.
yeah.
Weird.
It was very very
Yeah,
strange. But
yeah,
everything else was just
yeah,
about uncut and
yeah,
all that stuff. I think there were 1 or 2 cuts here and there, but
yeah.
I think I didn't notice until later once the Tom and Jerry Golden collections came out, and yeah.
Now, didn't you get on Tom and Jerry? Didn't you get all the cartoons? Because I know there's two cartoons that they never put on
In
the
the yeah, in
DVD
the
sets or the Blu-rays. Although you can see them on YouTube, but yeah.
well, in the UK they released those two,
Okay,
so
okay,
so pretty much it's easy to find. I've got them all anyway. I've actually got them all in HD.
yeah,
Um, again in my server. So,
yeah.
but
But I mean, did they release them legitimately just on home video in Australia, or was that a restricted thing there too?
I think a few things they did, but not much. No,
Oh, okay.
there's just a lot of things. We got some volumes of the Golden Collection, for example, but for
Mhm.
Tom and Jerry,
Okay.
it's hit or miss with what comes here. I know the Fleischer Superman that came out this year, that new restorations, that did come out here, so I picked it up.
Yeah.
But aside from that, yeah, it's just
What do you
hit or
think about
miss.
that? I was going to bring that up earlier, so I'll bring it up now. What do you think about that?
I think they overdid it with the scrubbing. The Again, most people are going to watch it, not care, and for them it's fine. But when you see what they're supposed to look like, it's similar to a lot of the Disney quote unquote restorations where all the backgrounds are scrubbed,
Yeah.
and it's more of a disappointment. Is it the worst thing? No. If you can get that set cheap enough, I got it for
Yeah.
$5 basically because
Oh, wow.
I had like a voucher lying around. I'm like, and it had like a buy one go on free sales, so I bought something else and I had that, and I guess that was the free thing, like $5 difference or whatever. So,
Yeah.
for that price, it's fine.
Yeah.
But they should have just scanned the negative and just not gone to grain removal happy. That
Yeah.
was the problem with it.
Yeah. I ended up, I was hesitant at first. I think I told you that when we were doing one of those commentaries, but I ended up getting it because, like yourself, I did get it on sale. And I was actually pleasantly surprised. I wouldn't say I was elated, like, oh, this is the best thing ever. But I mean, it's like, it wasn't as disappointing as I was led on because sometimes when they talk about DBNR, I think that it's going to be like every line missing and,
Yeah.
everything's muddy or something or whatever. But it actually looked pretty sharp. I still am going to keep my old DVDs and go on from there. But it's like, uh, you know,
But what they
I,
should
I,
have fixed, though, I
I
mean,
agree with you.
The
Yeah,
DVNR aside, what they should have fixed was the ending because on a lot of the shorts, they just reuse the same ending clip, which is like it has like a jarring ending versus what was originally supposed to be there.
yeah,
So they should have fixed that,
yeah.
but they didn't. So, and people already on YouTube have fixed it anyway. So I guess I'll just up because they're all in the public domain, so you can easily see
Right,
these on YouTube now.
right. Well, do you think Bosco Video will do a Blu-ray upgrade because they're probably the one that had the best versions out?
I mean, technically, someone like, say, Steve Stanchfield or whatever could release the majority of it because most of the Boscos are in the public domain. Um, so,
Well, I mean, the
but
Superman was. A Bosco Video did a Superman collection.
oh,
That's what I
Bosco
meant.
video. I thought
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
Boscos actually. Bosco
Well,
film.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
okay.
know. Yeah, he could do Bosco's
Whoops.
too, but no, I mean Bosco Video. That was they may not be in business anymore. I don't know, but they did
Who
a
knows?
Superman collection that I thought actually was superior than what was legitimately released from Warner's, even on DVD. But
Yeah.
you know, but I don't know if they're still in business. I mean, some of these things that, they're around for a few years and then they lose money and that's the end of them. So, I don't
Of
know.
course.
Anyway, but anything else to bring up before we kind of wind it down or anything like
Mm,
that? Or
no, I'm ready for lunch. It's lunchtime here.
all right. I'm ready to go to bed. Yeah, it's bedtime here. No, it's not that late. It's about 7:20 p.m. here, but anyway. Um no, it's been a pleasure talking to you as always.
Of course.
You know, and we just rambled on about cartoons and Beatles and a few other things, and it was really good. Um Let me know the next time you need a commentator on one of the Looney Tunes. Usually Camden lets me know, but yeah, hey. And
It's for oily hair is the next one you'll be
oily
on.
hair. Okay.
Oily hair.
Mhm.
It's something I'm going to assume it's got something to do with oil. I don't know.
Yes.
Just a hunch. Just a hunch.
I think I've seen it. Anyway, no, I always review them again, even if
Yeah,
I know I've seen them, but just to make sure I'm talking about what I'm talking about, instead of
exactly.
just making it up, saying, "Isn't this the one with the Yosemite?" There's no Yosemite Sam in this one, Mark. Whoops. Anyway,
Exactly.
anyway, so all right, well, um, any other projects coming out that you care to discuss, or it's pretty much
It's pretty much the YouTube.
Looney Tunes is
Yeah,
your life.
that's right. That's right. It's my life and that work, kids. That's pretty much it. But yeah, I'm continuing the of course the review project, and I'm now going to start reviewing more physical media, and yeah, hopefully get this channel really growing. It's growing slowly but steadily, which is good. That's what you want. You don't want to be like in some channels. You can tell they've bought subscribers, but then when you try and look up their details of what's known as social blade, it's like, well, okay, you got 1 million subscribers, but only 100 people are watching your videos, so it's
Right,
not like,
right.
well, um,
So what is
so
the name of your channel? I know I know it, but I'll let you tell it.
that's right. So it's Anthony's Animation Talk.
Okay,
So
very good.
um,
Yeah.
it's all
And
there. There's a few hundred reviews all ready to go. So make sure you grab some popcorn and
and subscribe. And
that's right.
subscribe
Subscribe,
to this
watch.
channel too. Anyway,
Yes.
so I can give you more fun ideas podcasts. But anyway, and how do people get in contact with you if they want to either be a commentator or just ask you a question about these old cartoons or just
Just
harass
hit
you?
me on social.
Whoops,
Just hit
sorry.
me on socials. Yeah, I'm on socials. And all my details are in every video anyway. So yeah, just hit me up, and we go from there. I mean, I can't accept every single request. And part of that is just not everyone is suited for this. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be polite about it. Because you may be a fan, but like it just depends on the situation. Some
Yeah,
people are better off sending me maybe a recording that I
yeah,
could actually edit and that kind of
yeah.
stuff versus talking on the fly. It's just a skill thing, nothing more.
Right, right. And I remember years ago, and Jerry Beck can agree with this, is when he was doing commentaries way back when. I said, I want to do some commentaries. How do I do that? And he said this, and at first I was kind of offended by it, is he says, you have to be asked. And I was kind of upset about that. And then I realized he was right. And that's how I ended up doing commentaries for Shout Factory and for the DePatie Freeland Kino Lorber things. And, somebody asked me. So it's like sometimes it just has to work that way. So, hey.
Exactly.
But
Exactly right.
anyway.
100%.
All right. Well, thank you, Andrew. Anthony,
It's
whatever your name
Anthony's
is.
animation talk, not Andrew's animation talk.
I know too many Andrews. Okay. Anthony Kotorac for being my special guest. Go get some lunch. I'll get some sleep. And we will talk to you next time on the Fun Ideas Podcast.